I want to address the argument you just brought up in the case of SA. It's a terrible thing. No pro-lifer ever wants a woman to get pregnant in this situation. But abortion does not undo that trauma. It may add more trauma because abortion itself is traumatic.
Yeah.
And if we're not even going to give penalty to the horrific person that committed this crime against her, why would we give the penalty to an innocent child for the crimes of their father?
But then that goes back to, I believe the death penalty for anybody that does SA.
But do you think that death penalty should be given to an innocent child for the crimes of their father?
No, but I believe it's the woman's choice, regardlessly.
A choice to do what, though?
To if she wants to keep the baby or not. Not just abort it. That's what I'm saying. Keep the baby or not.
44% of women regret their abortions.
Then I wish they would have thought it a little bit more through.
She's got the stats.
Yeah.
I got the stats.
But that's what I'm saying. I wish women would truly think about it, because I think Abigail said it or someone said it, but there is some women that like try to joke about it and like try to be like he. What?
Have you had an abortion?
No, I've actually never been pregnant either. So.
Yeah, she never had an abortion. Well.
Yeah,
so
but I know people that have.
Yeah, no, I get it. I understand that, right? But don't you think that a lot of times women have abortions and then feel like there's no going back because they have to endlessly justify it for the rest of their lives?
Yeah, but see, that's exactly why.
Endlessly justify it.
If you are truly you should literally stick it in your brain and be like, I have a baby inside me. I have a baby inside me. This is going to be a baby. Will I do this to myself? And if they are willing to sit there with themselves and be like, okay, I will do it, I will take this, then I guess whatever empathy or whatever type of mood and whatever type of emotions they're feeling,
Okay,
I'm not
that's fair,
here.
but-
I'm not here to confuse someone else's emotions.
Hang on. Last question I have for you.
Okay.
What would change your mind on this issue? What thing could be said as an argument that if you heard it, right, would reconcile this in your brain so that it would settle the issue for you? What would that be?
I think the biggest thing, and this is also something I do say too, women that have abortions usually cannot conceive a child the same way they did with the first one. They usually tend to have problems like complications. Once you have an abortion, there is more risk to your next pregnancy.
Does not answer my question. What thing could I do?
This is the final question on this, and then I have to move it on.
Which holds the belief that this is okay. What is that thing? And then if I refute that thing, will you change your mind on this issue?
Yeah, but I just can't think of a thing like that right now.
You can't think of a thing. So you're holding on passionately to an issue.
No.
You don't even fucking know why. You don't even know why.
No, I just know enough, like to the point where, I mean, like I'm saying,
You
I'm not
why
here
you
to
hold
tell
the
you
issue.
though how
don't
you
even know why
feel.
hold the stance. You have no idea.
I know, but that exactly. But like I'm saying, I'm not a therapist. I'm not someone to be like, oh my God, let me here to convince you.
Therapist to know why
Because
you
it's just somebody else's views. I'm not going to press.
If I could prove that it was a human being to you, would you become pro-life from the moment of conception?
Yeah, if my brain could register it, yeah, but.
Okay, every biology textbook says a human life begins at fertilization. At fertilization, they meet all 7 characteristics of life. You have your own separate DNA. Everything about you, your sex, hair color, eye color, was determined at the moment of conception. You are you, and you are valuable, and you are a human life that deserves equal human rights.
Okay.
Bars.
It's
Do you
true.
agree
It's
with
the same
that?
thing with animals.
Oh, yeah, same thing with animals. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wait, do you agree with her?
I said, okay, yeah.
So are
I
you
know,
pro-life now?
But so
If it
you
makes
said
you feel better,
you said
yeah.
if there
but
was
I still have different views.
you-
I still have different views on different situations.
But do you so you disagree with science then, that it's not a human life?
There's a lot of science. I guess I wouldn't say I disagree on it, but
wait,
it's
wait,
just.
hold on. Biology is not a soft science. Biology is a hard science.
I have the studies
So-
right now if you would
Yeah.
like to look at them.
But you guys are gonna waste more time trying to convince me than me trying to learn it on myself, on my own.
But you did just say if like this
Yeah.
was the standard, then it would change your mind on abortion.
And then-
she just established that it was.
Yeah, and I said, oh, but what I said, if you could, and run the clip back, I said, if you could actually, if my brain could process it right now, then yeah, I will change my mind in 2.3 seconds
Now,
once you tell me.
the gal
But I'm
said,
not.
If you want to know the anti-women voting argument, the main one of rationality is that women will often hold to stances which are illogical based on emotion. And this, pure emotion, pure fucking emotion, no stance based in logic, reason, no, you can't refute a stance based in non-rational emotional thinking, right? And this is why all those repeal the 19th, which, by the way, again, I'm saying I want to limit suffrage for everybody because I just think it's a bad idea that everybody votes in this society. I think that's stupid. But when it comes to this, with Chair 1, like, look at the rationality. No rationality whatsoever. Holding to a stance at a pure...
Yeah, but I hold it to the stance just because of the certain types of topics. Like I told her, it's not like I'm over here like, oh my God, you should do it at any age, at any given weeks, but that's
rational.
it.
You don't have a rational reason why you hold this stance. Tell me the rational reason you hold this stance. What is it?
Because I believe it's my own body and I should have my own teeth.
It's not your body. It's a baby's
it's
body
not.
that's being hurt and killed by
but
an
it's
abortion.
inside of my body and it will not be it will not be creating without me.
So a child's dependency on their mother's body to survive is a death sentence.
No, it's not a death sentence.
Because
Somebody said.
a newborn baby also relies
But then again,
on their
then
mother's body
there's
for
those
breast
women.
milk.
There's those women that have children, and then they're mean as fuck and abusive to their children because they never want
We're
them.
not
So they're better
forcing
off
anyone to be
dead?
mothers. We're not forcing anyone to be mothers. We just want to hold them accountable
Yeah, but
for
that's
their decision to get
pro-choice.
pregnant.
Pro-choice means you could give your baby up for adoption, you could get an abortion, or you could keep it. That's a choice.
Killing shouldn't be a
There's three-
choice, though.
There's three choices.
Yeah, it shouldn't be an
Yeah.
option.
Just because the baby's
but it's the fact that,
inconvenient to
but it's the
you.
fact that it is, and the only person that can really tell me something is Lydia because she's the only one out there in the government area being like, yeah, this is what I'm gonna do. So until you actually
Put
have
that on your resume, Lydia.
I have a
In the government area.
yeah, in the government specifics,
In
yeah.
the government area.
I understand that you're a very staunch anti-abortion advocate. I have a hypothetical for you.
For
which
me?
Yeah, for you.
Okay.
Which has been bothersome to me.
Okay.
Right? I had to think about it for a long time because it was actually difficult for me to reconcile. You believe life begins at conception, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so then in vitro fertilization clinic, all of those eggs have been fertilized, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So an in vitro fertilization clinic is on fire. There's a 2-year-old who's in there and he's crying, and there's thousands of eggs next to him. Would you save the thousands of eggs, or would you grab the 2-year-old if you could only choose one?
I don't think it changes the argument, and here's why. In the Titanic, when it was sinking, they chose to save the women and children first, like we talked about earlier. Does that mean that the men are worth less? No, absolutely
yeah,
not.
but wait, there's a rationale behind that, which is based around social duty. The valuation that you're talking about is equality in life after and before the effect of birth. This is the argument for being pro-life from your stance. So these fertilized eggs have as much ontological value as that 2-year-old. So
Yeah.
justify how it would be that you would grab the 2-year-old.
I don't know what I'd do in that situation, but I think
If you had to.
I don't think it, at the end of the day, first of all, we have an emotional response to gravitate towards a screaming 2-year-old who can feel pain, has conscious ability to experience what's happening, whereas
Okay,
the
what if the
embryos
2-year-old can't feel pain and he's not crying?
Yeah, that might be part of the consideration. It still doesn't change the argument, though. They're still equally valuable. For instance, if I have my own 2-year-old and there's a bunch of other 2-year-olds that are not mine in the corner, I might be conflicted about who to save. Doesn't change the argument that they're all equally valuable. They're all equally living human beings.
Yeah, but I'm not disputing that within the worldview, they're all equally valuable. The dispute comes in as to why the intuition would be for most people to go for the 2-year-old.
Yeah, I think
instead of the eggs.
Right.
Or why it would be that most people wouldn't cry over the fact, or for instance, let me give you an example. A nurse carelessly knocks over a bunch of fertilized eggs. Did she just murder a ton of people?
Accidentally, but yes, those are, that's why the IVF industry is extremely problematic because they're creating all of these millions of babies in embryonic form and then freezing some of them, destroying a bunch of them, practicing eugenics on them by selecting the ones that are a certain sex or have certain genetic capabilities. And that's why the
But do you
IVF
think
industry
the
is
common
problematic.
person, if they knocked over that tray of eggs, right, fertilized eggs, and they all broke, would feel in any way the same conditional that they would if they just saw, for instance, like, I don't know, 102-year-olds get butchered in this Right?
Yeah, I mean, it probably wouldn't feel the same way because it doesn't have the same level of experiences. You might feel different. That's why we can't base the pro-life argument on emotion. It's based on logic and facts and biology that says it's a human life in the womb.
Yeah, that's true. But intuition also informs when you're talking about moral codes and when you're talking about the ideas of how people interpersonally relate with everything.
I think it's just because
So if intuitively you're like, if you asked a person, almost any person, this question, would you rather, if you had to choose, right, 102-year-olds get butchered in front of you, right, or 1,000 inseminated eggs get dumped on the ground? I think almost every human being you ask that question to is going to choose the eggs getting dumped on the ground, right?
Right, yeah.
So it seems to be counterintuitive a bit to the logic. Now, I agree with you, by the way, 100% agree with you, that you are logically consistent. I'm just saying that in this, the intuition side is very difficult to logically reconcile.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think it's because we're kind of hardwired to emotionally respond to a screaming toddler in the way that we do, where we can't see a human in embryonic form to the same degree. We can't see the emotion on their face. It's harder to empathize with that, which is why abortion is so normalized partially, because we can't see that baby in the womb. People think it's genuinely a clump of cells. I mean, I, who was raised a Christian, had no idea that abortion was wrong for a while because society has just normalized it. It's so easy to dehumanize them when we can't see them with our own eyes and we can't empathize as well with it. So, I mean, I agree with you. It's difficult, but no, it doesn't change their value at the end of the day.
Can I add something? I've heard that they're using like aborted babies' eggs for IVF. Do you know if that's true?
What do you mean by that?
Aborted babies, like late-term abortions, and they're using their eggs for IVF. I've just heard that randomly.
So they
have
do
no
a lot
idea
of
if it's
different experiments on aborted babies' body parts, unfortunately. It's disturbing. I have not heard specifically of them somehow creating.
Final thought goes to Abigail. Go ahead, and then I'm moving it on.
I do want to know, Andrew, if somebody used the argument that you just asked her to dispute your pro-life argument, how would you argue that question that you just...
Well, now, that would be telling.
Oh,
So
man,
the
but I
thing
want to
is,
know.
Like, all Andrew Wilson's logical weapons are there for Andrew Wilson to deploy at the right time against the right person. But I did feel that Chair 3, I felt like giving a little bit of, because there's nobody else to give any pushback, I think it's fair to push people even that you agree with on their logical consistency and why they think the things that they think. There was nobody else here to do it, so unfortunately it falls to me to do, right? Even if I completely agree with the stance, right? But I've heard tons of compelling pro-choice arguments that can be difficult to reconcile. You know what I mean? Like, well, there's a bunch I could get into, but definitely not going to give away the Andrew Wilson logical weapons of
Dang
mass
it.
destruction today. So
Don't you think you should be helping
Yeah, help
educate people
me.
on how to debunk the or pro-choice argument?
of course.
So it's good to share your knowledge then, right? I'm curious. I want to hear how you would respond.
Doesn't mean I'm going to share it with you, right?
Uh-oh.
So the thing is like,
I'm gonna look it up.
I think.
Yeah, you can ask
I think
AI or
you're
something.
doing
Yeah.
a fantastic job, right? In what you're doing, and I mean, Godspeed to you. 100% support from us here at the Crucible to you, especially calling those people, exposing that so that people can see. I've heard leftists say this isn't even a thing that happens. There is no such thing as late-term abortion. You're making it up. Like, I've heard all of that shit. So I think what you're doing, the Lord's work here in this capacity, right? But when you have nukes, you save them for the right moment to drop them where they're the most useful, instead of somebody else taking them, messing them all up, and then the left is ready for them. I just don't.
What was it? 1,000 embryo, or what was it? 1,000?
You're talking about the burning IVF clinic analogy?
Yeah, it was 1,000.
Yeah, it's like 1,000
Fertilized-
embryos
fertilized embryos,
Versus screaming 2-year-olds.
burning building. All right, let's see what AI says to this, Andrew. Uh-oh.
AI is usually pro-choice.
You got to look into this because somebody's going to hit you with that question.
Hit me with what?
The question that he
Oh, the burning
asked you.
IVF clinic? No, I always just say that it doesn't matter who you choose to save. They're still equally valuable, just because you save the women and children
wait.
first
And
on the
then
Titanic.
he came
doesn't
back
mean-
with
Yeah,
the
but
intuition.
that's-
Your
which is
intuition, everyone.
logically consistent, but it's unintuitive to
Yeah.
convince.
But that still doesn't defeat the abortion the pro-life stance.
No, I
right?
agree.
Yeah.
But somebody's going to
It's not
ask
a
you.
defeater. Listen, it's not a defeater. But you have to understand when you're convinced, well, and you probably do know this, when you're convincing people that, right, like, for instance, you were trying to have a logical, deductive argument based on induction and deductive reasoning, which are one, somebody who is passionately, emotionally attached to a position. They respond to rhetoric often over even logical consistency. Nobody's refuting that you have a logically consistent stance. You most certainly do, right? But it's, are you convincing people through rhetoric who cannot be convinced through logic? And this is a weapon deployed by the left often, rhetorically, which stays in the convincing category of people who don't either A, have the capacity for logically inductive argumentation or deductive, or they're just passionate about it from an emotional stance. It's like, that's the point of rhetoric. So as Socrates pointed out rightfully, rhetoric is anything which convinces a person, whatever that is. That's rhetoric. And so I think it is a powerful rhetorical tool on their side, not a powerful logical one, and I don't think it debunks you at all.